Here are the top stories for today, September 19, 2019. President Duterte certifies the proposed 2020 national budget as urgent. The Philippines ambassador to European states calls on European nations to stop providing funding to groups that have ties to the CPP-NPA. Authorities report new cases of deaths of pigs in Bulacan following reports of African swine fever infection. And Pagadian City is hailed the overall champion of the Megayon Festival in Zamboanga del Sur.
Good day, I'm Rom Dulfo. Welcome to the PNA Newsroom. Our top story, President Rodrigo Duterte has certified as urgent the proposed 4.1 trillion peso national budget for 2020. In a letter to Senate President Tito Soto and House Speaker Alan Peter Cayetano, the President urged both leaders to consider the immediate enactment of the General Appropriations Bill for fiscal year 2020. This is to maintain continuous government operations following the end of the current year, to expedite the funding of various programs, and to enable the government to effectively perform its constitutional mandate. On Tuesday, the House of Representatives began plenary deliberations on the proposed 2020 budget. The proposed 4.1 trillion peso 2020 budget is 11.8% higher than the 3.662 trillion budget for 2019, constituting 19.4% of the country's gross domestic product. It is the fourth annual budget submitted by the government under the President and marks the beginning of the second half of his administration. President Duterte will visit Moscow for a second time upon the invitation of Russian President Vladimir Putin. Presidential spokesperson Sal Panelo confirmed that the president accepted the invitation of Putin to visit the country. Panelo said that the trip to Moscow would likely happen during the first week of October. Ties between the Philippines and Russia are expected to improve after the president's visit. Last September 12, Foreign Affairs Secretary Teddy Locsin Jr. bared that the president will go to Russia to make up for his first state visit that was aborted within half a day of arriving. In May 2017, the president cut short his first state visit to Russia after mounted terrorists attacked Marawi City. President Duterte has ordered a total revamp of the Bureau of Corrections or BuCor to curb corruption within the Bureau. Malacanang bared this after the President appointed former Parañaque and Manila City Jail's warden Gerald Bantag as new BuCor Director General on Tuesday. Presidential spokesperson Sal Panelo said Bantag will likely be given a free hand to select personnel. The president said he is confident that Bantag will clean up the agency, being a former regional director of the Bureau of Jail Management and Penology or BJMP. Bantag was the jail warden when an explosion occurred at the Parañaque City Jail in 2016. He was among those hurt but still faced charges. The president defended Bantag, saying he picked him as BuCor chief for his professional competence. Meanwhile, the PNP assures it will provide humane treatment to the inmates released under the Good Conduct Time Allowance law once they are arrested. The president has ordered to treat as fugitives the heinous crime convicts if they would not surrender. The deadline for voluntary surrender is today, September 19. The Manila Regional Trial Court on Wednesday convicted a Philippine Coast Guard officer and 7 personnel of homicide over the Balintang Channel incident in 2013. The court sentenced Commander Arnold Enriquez de la Cruz and 6 of his personnel to up to 14 years imprisonment and were ordered to pay 100,000 pesos in damages. De la Cruz and his men were among the 16 on board the patrol boat that encountered the Taiwanese vessel Guang Da Xing No. 28 at the Balintang Channel. The ship was accosted for catching tuna without a Philippine permit or license, but it tried to flee the scene. The Coast Guard claimed the Taiwanese vessel crossed their path, prompting them to open fire. The incident resulted in the death of 64-year-old fisherman Hong Shi Cheng. In a statement, the Taipei Economic and Cultural Office welcomed the Manila Court's verdict and has expressed its gratitude and respect to the Philippine judicial system. According to TECO, the verdict does not only serve as a symbol of justice but also a testament to the solid relationship and deep mutual trust between Taiwan and the Philippines. A House panel approves the establishment of malasakit centers in public hospitals nationwide. Meanwhile, the country joins in the condemnation of the bombing of the facilities of Saudi Aramco. More on this from Bench Bondo.
The House Committee on Health on Wednesday approved a measure seeking to institutionalize the establishment of malasakit centers in public hospitals nationwide to make quality healthcare more affordable and accessible to all Filipinos. The panel approved the substitute bill that would consolidate all 18 measures proposing the establishment of malasakit centers, which would complement the implementation of the Universal Healthcare Act. To date, a total of 41 malasakit centers have been established in various parts of the country since February 2018. Meanwhile, the Department of Education and World Vision launched Brigada Pagbasa, a movement that seeks to enhance the reading skills of the Filipino children. The initiative promotes participation between the public and private sector in promoting literacy. According to the United Nations 2016 report, the Philippines has the highest literacy rate at 97.95% among Southeast Asian countries. Brigada Pagbasa will begin in November in several communities across the country in line with the celebration of the National Reading Month. Meanwhile, users of the ride-sharing app Grab may now donate books to those in need following the launching of its Grab Buklat app on Wednesday. In cooperation with another private organization, Teach for the Philippines, Grab users may donate their used or new books from September 18 to 25 from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. Every fare collected from the Grab Buklat service will be matched by the company, and total proceeds will be used to purchase school supplies for chosen schools. Storybooks and reference books for children ages 6 to 10 years old, young adult books for ages 10 to 16, and reference books for high school students are welcome for donation. In other news, the government through the Department of Foreign Affairs on Wednesday condemned the recent bombing of 2 Aramco oil facilities in Saudi Arabia. A statement of the DFA described the drone strikes last September 14 as unjustified and deplorable. The attacks on Aramco facilities in Abqaiq and Qurais prompted Saudi to suspend about 50% of its oil production, which corresponds to nearly 2 million barrels per day. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Bench Bondo.
Still to come, the Philippines ambassador to European states calls on European nations to stop providing funding to groups that have ties to the CPP-NPA. Over 2,000 former members and supporters of the CPP-NPA joined a peace summit in Negros Occidental. More on this when the PNA Newsroom continues.
Pero kayo sir, ano ang dapat na ba talaga na bilisan at maipasa na itong panukala na magkaroon ng emergency powers?
May dapat lang. Yan po ang gusto ni Presidente Duterte. Yan po ang gusto ni Secretary Artogade. The problem of traffic in the Philippines should have a holistic and systemic approach. Hindi ho dapat ito maging yung tinatawag natin na linear approach. Hindi pong you solve the traffic from A to B, balik hindi ho dapat ganun. Dapat po yung tingin na systemic wherein it should be solved in terms of loops na pag sinolve mo yung A, sinolve mo yung B, dapat isolve mo rin yung C, D, E, F, G hanggang umabot sa Z at bumalik sa A. Paikot-ikot to, hindi ho siya linear, dapat non-linear ho yung pag-solve yan, systemic ho ang tawag dyan. We need to look for other solutions. Habang ginagawa yung mga skyway na yan, yung mga underground subway na yan, dapat tingnan din ho natin yung iba pa mga para, for example, ibang paraan, itong mga subdivision, ng ating mga big developers dito po sa Metro Manila, kailangan ay mapagbigyan yung riding public, yung motorists na paano makadaan doon. Yung sa ating airport, di ba? Ating airport natin na na kailangan ma-solve agad yung kung sino yung pwedeng nakakalapag dyan, nakakalipad dyan, kung saan mo pwede ilipat yung mga private plane, cargo plane. Kasi kailangan ng emergency powers to be able to do this, to be able to move them, to move the irritants.
The Philippines reiterates its call on Europe, the European Union, and the international community to cease giving financial support to groups linked to the Communist Party of the Philippines, New People's Army. Ambassador Evan Garcia made the statement during the 42nd session of the Human Rights Council in Geneva on Wednesday. Garcia said the spread of the communist armed movement now needs attention from the UNHRC. He said the Philippines noted how the CPP-NPA and its front organizations ran fictitious social programs while financing their criminal activities. He cited how they were peddling false claims on the human rights situation in the country while committing their own atrocities. He said the Philippines pays careful attention to the agenda item tackling human rights situations in UN member states and highlighted its importance to the work of the Council. Garcia also maintained that the government's discourse is based on facts and does not disintegrate to a level that credits purveyors of fake news. The father of activist turned New People's Army rebel Alexa Pacalda insists that his daughter voluntarily surrendered to authorities. In a taped interview provided by the Philippine Army, Alexa's father, Arnulfo, said his daughter was not threatened by the soldiers. Arnulfo was at the police station during Alexa's confession on September 15. In her sworn affidavit, Alexa acknowledged being an active member of the CPP-NPA who decided to leave the organization. She surrendered to the 85th Infantry Battalion along with a revolver, 6 live ammunition, and other war material. In her affidavit, Alexa said she is now considered a traitor by the communist group and is being targeted by her former comrades. In other news, authorities in Bulacan report a number of deaths of pigs following the confirmation of African swine fever infection in the province. At least 21 pigs owned by a backyard raiser in Barangay Santor, Malolos City were reported to have died on Wednesday. The owner said his pigs were afflicted with a mysterious disease during the past 3 days before they died. Another 10 of his pigs have also shown signs of disease. Personnel of the Department of Agriculture have already taken blood samples to determine whether the sick pigs are afflicted with African swine fever. Previously, decomposing bodies of pigs were discovered floating in the waterways of Barangay Tikay and Bulihan in the city last week. Results of blood sample tests taken from the pigs in the said villages as well as from Barangay Panasahan have not yet been disclosed. The Transportation Department on Wednesday gave San Miguel Corporation the green light to begin construction of the Bulacan International Airport. The agreement formally grants San Miguel AeroCity, a company wholly owned by San Miguel Holdings Corporation, the task of handling the airport project. The concession period spans 50 years after the completion of construction of the first phase. DOTR Secretary Arthur Tugade said the construction of the new international gateway would boost connectivity and mobility for Filipinos. For his part, SMC President and CEO Ramon Ang touted the economic boost the new airport would bring, especially to Central Luzon. The SMC chief also affirmed that business with government is conducive under the Duterte administration. The Bulacan International Airport is envisioned to help decongest NAIA and complement the operations of Clark International Airport. Some 2,500 former members and supporters of the Communist Party of the Philippines New People's Army in Negros Occidental are set to formalize their surrender during the Northern Negros Peace Summit. The three-day gathering being held at the Escalante City Coliseum on September 19 to 21 will also mark the 34th year of the Escalante Massacre. The Peace Summit will serve as a venue for the reconciliation among the concerned sectors, former rebels, and families of the massacre victims. Among the activities will be the issuance of apology from government sectors and former NPA rebels, handover of surrendered firearms, and oath of allegiance by the surrenderers. There will also be a declaration of a day of commemoration and a tribute to the Escalante Massacre victims. The Escalante Massacre, which took place on September 20, 1985, claimed the lives of some 20 persons and injured several others. Marcos Highway in the Cordillera region is set to undergo road clearing. Meanwhile, the military awarded medals to 3 soldiers for gallantry in action against Abu Sayyaf group. More on this and other news from the provinces from Janice Cave.
About 30 structures have been demolished on Thursday as part of the initial implementation of the road clearing on Marcos Highway. The DILG said this is part of the compliance with President Rodrigo Duterte's order during his 4th State of the Nation address last July. A total of 273 structures will be demolished for violating the 30 meters road right-of-way for Marcos Highway. In Leyte, the local government of Barugo had set aside 2.8 million pesos to carry out this year's supplemental feeding program of the DSWD. The feeding program has benefited over 1,500 daycare children from January to August. The DSWD has identified Barugo Town as one of the top 10 areas in Eastern Visayas that has been sustaining the feeding program since 2011. In South Cotabato, the municipal government of Soralia has declared a period of mourning over the tragic death of 20 people in a road crash in Tiboli Town on Tuesday. The Municipal Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council approved an initial financial assistance of 10,000 pesos for each of the victims who mostly came from Zone 2, Barangay Libertad. The victims were on their way home to Soralia when the truck they were riding suddenly turned wayward and fell into a ravine in Barangay Salome, Tiboli Town past 9 a.m. Tuesday. Meanwhile, the Western Mindanao Command awarded medals to 3 soldiers for gallantry in action against Abu Sayyaf group in the provinces of Basilan and Sulu. Sergeant Vicente Castro Jr., Corporal Junifer Ordeniza, and Private First Class Keferd Osnagaralso received cash aid from Westmincom. The Westmincom also extended financial assistance to the soldiers who were admitted at the Camp Navarro General Hospital for their injuries. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Janice Cave.
Up next, the DOST launches an action plan to provide aid to more micro, small, and medium enterprises. Pagadian City is hailed the overall champion of the Megayon Festival in Zamboanga del Sur. The PNA Newsroom returns after these reminders.
Get involved in various issues of national interest.
Is the Philippine society ready for same-sex marriage? Alam niyo napaka-controversial po nitong mga tinatawag na salugpungan schools. Ano? Kamusta po ba ang K-12? When did it start? And ano po ang status ngayon ng ating program?
Heated exchange of views that offers new perspectives and social enlightenment.
Don't push your morals on us.
Don't push your morals on us!
The same way.
Don't push your morals on us!
All right.
Denying
All right.
same-sex
All right.
marriage.
But you're also pushing your morals on us by
Referee muna ako.
pushing it.
Okay. Mainit po ang talakayan.
Join Undersecretary Joel C. Eggo as he searches for the truth behind every story on Pros and Cons, Friday nights at 11, only here on PTV.
Kalam has been a very active partner of the Singaporean government. So we share our data on the security and peace and development in the region. The dialogue with the youth is very important as of now because same with Singapore, our country, or even specifically in Mindanao, we are composed of diverse people. Singapore may be a small country, but they were able to address a lot of issues in terms of governance and creating a government that really works for their people.
A society is fragile if one group views another as a threat. It is important to overcome the forces of division and build bridges instead of walls. Dialogue is essential in order to counter prejudice, ignorance, and intolerance. Point again, diversity is a source of strength. It does not have to be a source of contention and conflict. It makes our societies more vibrant and our lives richer. It is something we must cherish and protect.
Knowing the background of the President of Singapore, she's the first female president there and from the Malay breed, and it gives hope for the Muslim females here in Mindanao that we can also do something.
The students should be a priority because they are the future generations. So they have to be included in such dialogues so that they do not have, they will not be influenced by such extremists.
To my fellow youth, we need to engage ourselves to different community engagements. We need to open our minds so that we can see the society in a better perspective because we are the leaders of today and of tomorrow.
The Department of Science and Technology, or DOST, has launched a promotional activity to reach out more micro, small, and medium enterprises. The DOST launched the Spices to DOST Labs, wherein they hold tours and one-on-one consultations with researchers and research and development institutes. DOST Secretary Fortunato de la Peña instructed them to find ways to inform the MSME industry about the agency's laboratories, facilities, and equipment they could use to improve their products. Close to 100 participants were toured at the Advanced Device and Materials Testing Laboratory in Bicutan, Taguig during the launching last September 6th. The tour to DOST's facilities would initially be available for the MSMEs in the National Capital Region. In our foreign news, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has condemned 2 suicide attacks that killed scores Tuesday in Afghanistan. In a statement, Guterres expressed his deep sympathies to the families of the victims and to the government and people of Afghanistan. The Taliban claimed responsibility for an attack that killed 24 people when a suicide bomber targeted an election campaign rally by Afghan President Ashraf Ghani in Parwan province. In the other attack, 20 people were killed in an explosion near Kabul's Green Zone, where the Defense Ministry, U.S. Embassy, and NATO headquarters are located. Afghanistan is set to have presidential elections on September 28. The Health Department is urging parents in the Bicol region to have their children vaccinated against polio as part of its intensified efforts to prevent the transmission of the viral disease in the region. The DOH said that the oral polio vaccine is free of charge and available in barangay health centers across the region. It noted that a child should receive OPV 1, 2, and 3 before reaching 1 year old. From 2016 to 2018, the 3-dose series of OPV immunizations in Region 5 was 44%, 72%, and 74% respectively. This is way below the target 95% required of a population to develop herd immunity. DOH 5 Director Dr. Ernie Verda said the agency has been strengthening its immunization program and intensifying all measures to prevent polio transmission. Verda also called on all media partners to help with information dissemination and stakeholders for support. Zamboanga del Sur capped its celebration of the Megayon Festival, with Pagadian City winning the festival's overall championship. More on this from Teresa Montemayor.
Pagadian City bagged the overall championship in this year's Megayon Festival, which highlights the 67th anniversary of Zamboanga del Sur. The city took home a 525,000 cash prize and 5 million peso worth of projects. The towns of Margosatubig and Josefina won second and third places respectively and received 3 million peso worth of projects each. The festival's competition included street dance, float parade, and vocal presentation from the the Subanen, as well as the local settlers. Pagadian topped the street dance competition with the towns of Margosatubig and Josefina ranking as second and third places. Margosatubig dominated the float parade competition, while Pagadian City landed second and Lapuyan at third place. Josefina won the first place in the Subanen category, with the municipalities of Lapuyan and Vicenzo Sagun as the second and third place winners respectively. Margosatubig bagged the first place in the Moro category, while the towns of Kumalarang and Tukuran landed second and third places. The city of Pagadian won first place in the local settlers category, followed by the town of Mahayag and third, Tambulig Municipality. Megayon is a celebration of unity among the Subanens, the Moros, and the local settlers, which would contribute to the founding of Zamboanga del Sur. This year's anniversary celebration is anchored on the theme Hawak Kamay Tungo sa Tagumpay, Iangat ang Bawat Zambo-Surian. From the PNA Newsroom, I'm Teresa Montemayor.
Let's take another look at today's biggest stories.
President Duterte certifies the proposed 2020 national budget as urgent. The Philippines' ambassador to European states calls on European nations to stop providing funding to groups that have ties to the CPP-NPA. Authorities report new cases of deaths of pigs in Bulacan following reports of African swine fever infection. And Pagadian City is hailed the overall champion of the Megayon Festival in Zamboanga del Sur.
Thank you for watching another edition of the PNA Newsroom. Check out these and other stories. Check our website. Follow the Philippine News Agency on Facebook and Twitter. For more stories about the government, how it serves Filipinos, look for these hashtags at all our social media platforms and websites. And that's your daily dose, latest news and information that you need to know from the PNA Newsroom. I'm Rom Dulfo. Good day.